Hello guys, in this video we will check the layer properties for each item in the table of content. So as you see here, when we right click on any item here, we have properties, and we have different kind of properties for a data frame, for group layer, for feature classes, raster, and base maps. So we will go through each one of them. So we will first go into the data frame, right click and go to properties. And as you see here, we have several tabs here. So we are going to start with general. General here, you just enter basic information for this data frame, like the name, description, credits, and also here you define the display units. So for example, if I come here and I change decimal and I say OK, when I move my mouse here, you will see on the bottom right here that the units shown is decimal, but it is always better to keep it as the map units. So we are going to change it back to meters, similar to the map units. And here reference scale is similar to when we right click here and we set reference scale. And here you can rotate the map. Let's say for example I want to rotate it to 90 degrees. Say apply. You'll see the map will be rotated 90 degrees. So let's put it back. Apply. And here this options right here is basically for labeling, and we will come back to it later when we focus on the annotation and labeling for the map. So here we have data frame, and here the first one you set the extent. So here you set what extent for this map, so you cannot zoom in or zoom out after this extent. So automatic doesn't limit anything. So if I set fixed scale, so the map will not zoom in or out of this scale. So let's see that if I said OK. So if I try to zoom in or out, as you see here, it's disabled and I cannot zoom in or out. I can pan, but I cannot zoom in or zoom out. So we're gonna put it back again to automatic. And here we have the extent, the full extent, to set the full extent. So the full extent is this icon right here. So if I cancel this one and I try to view the full extent right now, it shows the extent of the entire layers I have in the data frame. So now let's change the full extent to be this extent right here. So I right click properties and I change the full extent to others, specify extent. I use the current visible extent, or you can use any layers to be your full extent, or you can add your custom extent. So if I click OK, and I am on another extent somewhere else right here, I click full extent anytime, it brings me back to my full extent. So the next option is clip option, and clip will clip your data frame to show only layers inside a certain like frame. So this one here, let's say clip to shape, and let's specify the shape to current extent, or you can also change it to certain layer. If I click OK, when I zoom out, you will see that there is no layers shown out of this extent right here, because that was the extent I set for the clip. So you can disable it again by coming here, properties, and change to no clipping. Okay, you'll see the entire map will show back up again. The next options we have here, the coordinate system. So here you can change the coordinate system for your data frame. Illumination is used to change any shades on your map. You can change it from here, or you can enter the value right here in degrees, and you can change the value on the shades. And this tool here is mostly used if you have 3D data on your map to show shades for this 3D based on this illumination value, and we will check that more in the 3D section. So let's click restore defaults, and here grid. Here you can set up a grid to show in the layout view, so that will only show in the layout view. Whatever you set here to make your grid look like, it will show up in the layout view, and we will see that when we get to the layout view. Here you have feature cache, and here cache is basically caching your view of the data on your local machine. So every time you open a new MXD or you open a new feature class or base map, this is the first time ArcMap is showing this data. So what ArcMap does, it caches this data or this view you are seeing on your map on your local machine, so the next time you go to the same place or you view the same data, it's much faster than the first time. So here you can set to make it auto cache for the current extent. For any caching options, on any layer, I would prefer to keep it the default because ArcMap by default is using the best caching options for your performance, but here you can manage the cache options for your map. Annotation, here this options is used for annotation layer. When we create the annotation layer, we will see how we can change these options. Here the frame option, this also for layout. You change how your layout border looks like, the color of the layout and the background of the layout. Here size and position also used for layout, and the layout view, when we come to the layout view, we will check these options in more details. So let's cancel the data frame properties. Let's open the group layer properties. And as you see here, you have the general, same things, but also here you can change the scale, the minimum scale and maximum scale, as we did before by right click here and change the minimum and maximum scale. And here is group, where you can manage what layers inside your group layer. And here display, you can change the transparency of the entire group layer for the one we are selected. For the feature classes layer, we have much more options. And here again, the general, you can change the name and the minimum and maximum scale. And here the source will show you what is the extent of this layer, and will show you some information about this layer, including where is the location of this data exist. And you can change the location of your data from here. Selection, here you can manage how your selection look like. So when we select a feature, this is the color our selected features take, and you can change how the symbol looks like and how the color of the selection looks like from here. Display, here also you can change the transparency from here, and here the display expression will show this field value when you do identify for the features. So for example, if I zoom to my Orange County cities and I do identify or any of the cities, I will see that here it shows orange, and orange is one of the field values here. So if I come here and say properties and I change it my display field expression to area, and I said okay, the next time when I do identify, it will show the value for the area. So display expression is used to define which field will be used to show as the main field data. So let's check the other options. And here you can set up show map tips using the display expression. And here you can create a hyperlink using a certain field. And this URL, for example, like open an image for the city, and you have this data in your attributes, you can enable the hyperlinks and choose which field to use as a hyperlink. So when you identify, you see this hyperlink, and when you click on it, it opens in a browser. So if we click OK here, you will see that every time I move my mouse on a map, it shows me the display expression for this feature because we enabled it from the display. So because we enabled it here, we can see the tooltip. So we're going to change it back to city name. And here is where you can change your symbology based on values from your attribute table, and we will do that in the symbology video. Here fields, here you can manage your fields, which values, which fields you want to show and which one you want to hide, and how to reorder them. So for example, if I hide all of them and only show the city, and I say okay, when I open the attribute table, I will only see the city name, and when I do identify, I will only see the city name. So how to enable or disable the attributes that you can use is by coming to properties, and you change from the fields right here. And you can also change the order for them, which one on the top, which one on the bottom, and you can change the alias, and you can change if you can highlight it or not from here. Definition query, it's used to do filter for the map you have. So I will show you a quick example, but we will go deeper into the definition query later. So for example, if I came here and I said I want to see only the cities that have the name of Costa Mesa, and I said okay, and I apply, all the other features will be hidden and only Costa Mesa will be visible on my layer. So definition query is used to filter your data and make your layer show certain features based on this definition query right here. So we're gonna remove this right now. So we want to show everything again. And the next thing we have here is labels. So labels will be used to define the labels on this layer. Remember when we enabled the labels from here? Now each feature shows a label of the city name. If I right click and go to properties again, I can manage how these labels look like and what is the font, what is the color, and change the options for these labels from this tab right here. And we have a separate video for the labels. And also this here is for joins and relates, and we have a separate video for that. But here you can manage your join and relates from here, or you can also manage it from here as well. You right click and you go to joins and relates. And here we have the time, and the time is used to show your features based on time values. Like for example, on the freeways, if we have the traffic information and we have the time for each traffic values, we can define it from here, and we are gonna see that later in another video as well. Here the HTML pop-up, I changed the properties for the HTML pop-up from here. So the HTML pop-up is this one right here. As you remember, when we click on a feature, how the HTML looks like, we changed it from the HTML tab, and we have another video for that. Now let's check the raster images properties. So here the property for the raster, we have general, same thing, source, same thing. It shows you some information about this raster image and where the source for this raster image, and you can set the data source from here. Key metadata. So if you have like a satellite image, you can see what bands or what spectrums into this raster from here, and you can see what is the values, the minimum and the max values for each spectrum. And extent is used to actually make the extent of the image or of the raster image matching certain extent. So for example, if I come here and I enable the Orange County cities raster, you see that the actual image is so big and there's extra information here and there and extra corners that I don't want. So look what will happen when I change the extent for this one to match the extent of the Orange County's cities layer, and I click apply. See, the image have been clipped to match the extent of my Orange County cities. And this tool is really good because if you have a really large raster image and you are actually using it to digitize a very small area, you can come and change the extent of your raster image from here. So display is used to change the transparency or brightness or contrast of this specific raster image, and you have some options here, like for example show map tips will help you to show, if I click OK, show the map tip for each pixel your mouse is on. So right now, instead of me doing identify, I can see that this pixel have this values on it. And here we have the symbology tab for raster. It looks different than the symbology tab for the feature classes, and we will get back to it when we go into the master section for the raster. And here also you have the time option as well. And the properties for the base layer is very simple because it shows you the general information for it, and you can change the minimum scale and maximum scale. And again, it shows you the cache options you have here, because the base map we are using here is an online base map. It's not hosted on our local machine. So every time we zoom in, we zoom out, or we go to different extents, ArcMap cache this views we have, so the next time we go to the same area, it load up faster. And we can see this caching information by going to this location on our computer from here. So this is the location where the cache is saved. If I open this folder, you will see there's a lot of folders here. If I open any one of them, you'll see more folders inside of it. Open one more, you will see that you have small tiles of images that actually, when you zoom to a certain area that have this images, this tiles been put together on ArcMap to show on your map right here. So caching is really good to make things faster when you use your map, and every time you use your map more and more, you make it more faster. And you have the option to clear your cache. Let's say for example you're not gonna use this layer anymore, so you can clear your cache here to save yourself some space on your machine. And here it tells you how much space this caching right now is taking. As long as you use the map more and you zoom in and you zoom out and you change the extent of the base map, this caching will be more and more and more, but it will help you make your map much faster. So that's it for our layer properties. I know there's some tabs that I didn't go into details on it because we are gonna make a separate video for each tab of this. For example, the HTML, pop-up, the time, the symbology, we will make a separate video for each one of them. So right now I just want to show you what's the difference between the layer properties for each item into the table of content. So we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.